And I hope this has been as enjoyable for you as it is for me. I love these contemplative practices. Dr. Mao, are you here with us? Welcome.
Yes, I am indeed. Welcome, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. So, Dan, to ask your question, since you're here with us, would you just like to ask it, or do you want me to screen share what you sent me, and maybe would you like to read it, or how would you like to do it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to read it.
Okay.
So I was initially doing both of the, inquiries or, contemplations, who am I and why am I here at the same time? And I split them apart. So I started doing just the who am I and focused on it. And so I was wondering, if that's, a thing that's a good idea.
Actually, Dan, that it's what we intended. When you do contemplation,
Yeah.
Ideally you focus on one question at a time.
Okay. I'm doing them completely separately usually, though.
That's perfectly good.
Okay.
So how's it been for you?
It's been.
By the way, our session here is as much about sharing, and not only about question answers, but like, okay, this happened for me. Let's talk about it. Let's share it, because other people will for sure benefit from your experience.
So, yeah, I just felt like I kind of cut through a lot of stuff. It took me some time, and but I feel like I don't know if you want me to share, and I don't mind doing that, but I just don't want anyone else's, mind to be clouded by what I've come up with. But I feel like that I'm the background of all those things. That's kind of what I feel like, the background of, and by all those things, I mean, any, concept or any, image or, anything. I'm the background of all that. And that's kind of what I feel. And I also mentioned, last time we met that it was a feeling too. So I feel like this is, complementary with, the feeling. So that's what I feel I've come up with.
Thank you, Dan. The interesting thing that I feel like I can relate to, and perhaps others too as well, is this background, meaning that, as you contemplate, your ego begin to diminish. And that instead of seeing you as the foreground, you begin to see you as part of. And then as time goes on, as the layers peel off of the superficial into the deep core, then you begin to understand that that not only are you the background, but that background, which if you're a fish in water, that water is what sustains life. And so that background is not as insignificant as what appears as you deepen your contemplation. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, Dan. So, does that clarify for you?
Yeah, it does. It does help. It does help. I think for me, separating the two made focusing on the answer for that first one, a smaller job, I guess. So I haven't worked on that second one too much, but I feel like I've gotten something because of it. So yeah, that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent question.
Mhm.
And Sue, you sent a message that Ed had a question, but I did a search and I didn't receive it, although I have a few emails from him. Do you know what his question was regarding, and would you like to pose it for him? Can you hear me, Sue?
I'll have to check his email.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, are there any other questions regarding contemplation practice, Wu Dao? This is a Q&A, so you can feel free to unmute yourself and speak. Also, did anyone email me a question that I didn't receive?
Olivia,
Just want to make sure. Hi, Kelly.
hi.
Hi.
I came in late, so I'm not sure. Maybe Dan had the same question as I did, or maybe it relates to what I have a question about, or just want feedback about. So the second part of the meditation, the "Why am I here?" part, has been really hard for me. So again, I don't know if Dan already asked this kind of question, but just getting through that has been hard for me. And part of it has been, I feel like I need a concrete answer to that. But I'm hearing, and I reread the meditation from last time, that it's about just letting that flow through me, that question flow through me, correct?
Dr. Mao, do you have a response for Kelly?
It's an excellent question, Kelly. I think many of us have this similar experience when we first started to contemplate the question, because the why can be so big and overwhelming and elusive and not concrete, that it cannot be represented perhaps by a statement. However, though, I want to ask you, throughout this last 2 weeks of contemplation, what has come up for you, and how has that, sort of, what we're looking for obviously is you peeling off layers of superficial answers of the why to get to the deeper core answers of why. And that answer, there's no right or wrong answer, so that's the first thing you have to think about, right? So don't put a judgment on it. There's only your truth, that's the first thing. And so when you contemplate, try not to put a judgment on what comes up. Sometimes you put judgment on it, then you begin to stifle what comes out. But I'm curious to know, so for you, how's this been for you? What has come up, and what have you released?
I honestly, I think it's been the toughest part of the meditation, and I think I'm having a hard time just letting go of the right or wrong answer. So I tend to get kind of nervous during that part of the meditation, and so I have to reach a little bit more. I can't have to keep doing it because it's a stumbling block for me.
I think part of the difficulty is because we're constantly given the answer as to why you do this. As parents, when a child asks, but why can't we have ice cream right now? But why not? Why? So we always have to have an answer. But we're talking about the deeper truth of your life, and what is it? So it isn't something that may be apparent right away, and which is okay. And that's what meditation is for. as a contemplative meditation, you need to ask that question. So as more comes up, you begin to then see, oh, that's partial, but not the whole. So I need to continue to dig deeper.
Yeah. Yeah, stick with it and dig deeper.
Does that help, Kelly?
Yeah,
Or
it does. Yeah, it's very
do you
helpful.
want, okay, good. And do you want further clarification?
No, that's very helpful. I know that, you know, in all the toughest times in my life, I just need to stick with it and have faith and let go of that idea that there needs to be concrete and only one answer. So
And there are also maybe answers that come to you in other ways other than just thoughts. So beyond thought, you know, there are also there's also a lot of value to noticing what you're feeling while you're meditating, what kind of emotion comes up when you ask these questions. Is it fear, worry, anxiety? Just to notice, or love, peace, bliss, to notice what you feel as you ask these questions, or even also what you envision, what you might dream the night of practicing this meditation. So sometimes answers can come, but not in the way that that is expected.
yeah,
And that's okay. It's actually Wu Dao as I understand it. And I hope that you'll correct me, Dr. Mao, if I'm a little bit off. But it's about kind of questioning and listening and going above, so going over the head of the intellect, so going beyond intellect
yeah,
into sometimes deeper understanding of yourself. For example, I was reminded that when we practiced Wu Dao last year in level 1, I had 3 visitations by a black bear to my front door, which I have one of those Ring cameras. So it's motion activated. So it captures when the UPS guy comes, when raccoons scurry by, and also when black bears come to the front door. And the first time it happened, it was really alarming. It was alarming each time. But I asked Dr. Mao, could this have anything to do with, I've never had a black bear come to the front door before. Peacocks, yes, but not a black bear. And he shared with me, well, in the Taoist tradition, bears are meaningful symbols of courage. So your whole reality can speak to you when you're meditating, not just during the meditation, but during your life. So as you're giving attention to yin and yang, as you give your focus to the silence and the quiet, or even as you give your focus to nature, you may find that your reality is speaking to you. And that's listening to each moment, the content of this now. And that's beyond intellect. And it can involve your intellect, but it goes beyond just an intellectual understanding of words and meaning.
yeah, that's very helpful.
And Dr. Mao, is my understanding correct?
Very well said. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. So, Courtney, I noticed that you raised your hand.
Hi.
Hi.
I was thinking I was going to ask, is it, possible we could pay attention to something outside meditation that even then we still wouldn't have the answer to? So you hit on it before I asked.
Can you repeat that, Courtney? I didn't totally get it. You
well,
broke up.
really, I was going gave that something may come, or may something come outside of meditation through
Ah.
our experiences. That, so, thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. I agree, because, something that I love about this particular Taoist tradition and lineage is that it is alive. And so I love being able to seek confirmation from Dr. Mao, and also to have some guidance in how to integrate these meditations into life. So it's not just about doing something during your 30 minutes or 20 minutes of allotted meditation time and then going about life in the same way. It's about integrating these practices. Oh, Dan says, I didn't understand Courtney. I think that you were kind of cutting out, Courtney, because you're outside maybe, but I think I understood, and you can just give me a thumbs up if I'm correct, Courtney. I think that what she was saying is basically we were psychically connected. So as I was responding to Kelly and saying sometimes the answers to these Wu Dao questions come from outside, come from life itself. Sometimes it's not just your intellect coming up with 2 + 2 = 4 kind of answer, but it's that you're posing these questions and opening yourself to receiving answers. And once you open yourself to receiving answers and you ask the deep questions, sometimes life itself is answering. So in my case, the black bear came and said, have courage. And that can be considered part of Wu Dao. Or, maybe you're going for a walk and you see a beautiful eagle, or perhaps suddenly you're aware of the rustle of the leaves. Or for me, I was hiking and I discovered a tree that had been struck by lightning, and it was burned to a crisp. And every time I visited this tree, I noticed that it was coming back to life little by little. And there was this branch that grew out of this dead, charred kind of stump. And then it leaved, so it burst forth with leaves. And then it blossomed. And so I have photographs that I can share. There's this kind of charred tree with these beautiful blossoms. And then it produced fruit. It was an apricot tree. And that tree was a very important message, or I perceived an important message from that tree because I was listening to it and paying attention and asking those questions. And that tree was speaking to me about perseverance and about overcoming challenges even when they seem devastating. So Wu Dao can go beyond just an intellectual understanding, but I believe that was what Courtney was also expressing, was to look to life sometimes for answers. Is that correct, Courtney? Yeah. So this is an integrated tradition. So the integral way means that we are integrating practices and peace into life itself. It's not just about the sitting time or the meditation time. So we can continue to discuss this. Dr. Mao is in Oregon, and he and some others are working on a beautiful retreat center there. So he's gone to a place where because it's in the wilderness, he's gone to a place where he does have a signal. So Dr. Mao can hear us, but his signal isn't very strong. And when he responds to questions, you may hear other people. And that's just how it is this week. We're practicing flexibility and rolling with it. So are there any other questions about Wu Dao, or do you feel 100% connected and ready to continue for 2 weeks? Hi,
Libby?
Suze. Yes. Who else? I hear
Sorry,
SI
this is Rick.
Suze and Rick. Okay, so Rick, why don't you go first, and then Sue's next?
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay.
This is my favorite meditation so far. I love this one, and I look forward to doing it every morning. And I've been doing the same thing Dan has been doing. And I think that these two meditations, why am I here, and who am I? For me, I don't have any expectations about what I'm going to get out of it yet, or I don't have any, other than doing what I think the instructions were and just looking to see what comes up from my deeper mind and experience. And I think what, for me, is just, it's really fun to do it. The way I've organized it is I do it in the morning. I do some warm-ups, so, I think I do the 8 treasures warm-ups. And then I sit for 20 to 25 minutes and say, who am I? And I've just now started the why am I here? But Olivia, you mentioned that this is good to take the meditation experience outside into your life. And one experience I had of that was I do the meditation, and then my wife and I are fortunate, my wife Leslie and I are fortunate, we live out in the country in North Carolina, in the woods. And so I take a walk in nature afterwards. And I was walking along, and something came out about my father. And I saw I hadn't thought about this in decades probably. I saw what he did for us and for me in a whole new way, and how really amazing he was in terms of how he supported our family and supported me. I thought, wow, that is just, I never took that on, but he did. And there was just this deep love and appreciation I had. And I thought, well, I wonder if this came out of my meditation. I saw something much deeper and much grander in terms of not just what he did, but who he was. And so I like that a lot. I've had a couple of other experiences like that, which I can't remember because I forgot to write them down. But so that's what I got out of who am I? And now I've just started why am I here? So, we'll see what happens next. But I find that with these meditations, I'm very eager to do them. And I do have a question for Dr. Mao and Olivia and anyone else. I'm finding with these meditations, we're on the 3rd month, and there's a lot there. And I want to have a deeper experience with each little one. So I think I'm taking, it's like, how do I hold all this meditation, all the different practices? And I just wonder if any suggestions there, or like to know what other people are doing, like maybe practicing the 5 clouds as a separate one, or I'm doing the sun meditation as a separate thing also every day. So anyway, I will rest now and see what other folks have to offer. And thanks for the time.
Thank you, Rick. Well, in response to your question about practice, with this particular meditation intensive, I suggest focusing on one practice at a time. So, you'll always have access to these recordings so that when we take a break, you can choose to practice whatever you'd like. But you're not expected to practice all of the meditations that we've covered every day, but rather take a month to really dive into, for example, with this practice, the contemplative experience. So you can have a direct experience yourself of how this impacts you, how much you love it or don't love it. And once we've finished practicing month by month, you'll be empowered with some clarity to know what you need and when going forward in your life. Do you agree, Dr. Mao?
No, that's excellent. Rick, it is that's always a challenge, because you've been around the tradition long enough to know that we have hundreds of practices. And so there are your favorites, and then there are ones that you may not be familiar with. So this course is designed in a way, as Olivia mentioned, but you're deepened. And in fact, we talk about mastery one moment. When something, I apologize, when something noisy goes by, I mute for a second, let that energy pass. Then I'm not having to compete with that energy. So yes, so, gaining mastery comes from the practice of something over and over and deepening your understanding, your proficiency, and your realization. So contemplative meditation is not something that goes away. In fact, level 2, there are a number of level 2, and they're all teachers now in their own right, participating in the level 1 with you. And they have lots of experience to share of what it was for them. But we evolved into another type of contemplative meditation. So these practices are layered step by step. So so the contemplative process is to help you, see the superficial, get deeper, eventually obtain the kernel truth, and then the oneness realization that ultimately, we are not separate from that one truth in the universe, that universal divine. But how do you get there? You cannot get there from here if you have not had any experience or foundation. So this is why we do these practices, so that you can get to that place of realization and actualization. Now, the interesting part a lot of people have been sharing, right, is that even when you're not practicing so-called the contemplative meditation, that when you're doing something else completely different in life, something comes up that pertains to your contemplative meditation. It doesn't go away. When you're going to sleep, we say that during the day, your Shen is active, that's your consciousness. And then at night, your Hun, which is the counterpart to the spirit that's active at night, the Hun, the soul, sometimes translated, is active at night. And that soul is also working because you have asked yourself this question, and it will continue to work. So sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and something just comes to you pertaining to what you had asked maybe days before. That's normal. And but it's important that we do in our make all of these practices very practical. They help our lives. They help us solve perplexing riddles that we have. Maybe it's relationships, maybe whatever it might be. And the answer of why is important to get to the deeper reasoning why, because there are times I catch myself doing something or committing something, and then I stop and then I ask, why am I doing this? Because it's so easy in our lives to be mindless, and that we just say, okay, I'll do that, I'll do this, but why are you doing it? And most of the time it's just to pass time. Most of the time is that we don't want to say no to somebody. Most of the time it's because we don't want to be a bad or perceived as a quote unquote bad person. But the reality is that you must live your truth and you must cultivate yourself. And so you need to understand why. And so that's superficial why, but you get into the deeper core of the why you're here, it will be revealed to you a deeper calling of the purpose of your life. And so I don't want you to get to the end and lie on your deathbed and look back and say, oh my God, it's become clear to me now, but I don't have any time left. So it is an important that we're given an opportunity to exercise our free will. And, it's your choice. There's no right or wrong, by the way. I'm not here to tell you what you should do, what your purpose is. Only you can realize that. And when you do realize that, then everything falls in place, and you become aligned. There is an alignment. Your actions, your thoughts, your life, it's directly aligned with that. And how beautiful that would be, and in fact, how effortless would that be? Because then there's no longer any struggle of should I not. There will no longer be any regrets, because as long as you have, live your life in that alignment, there is peace, serenity, fulfillment, and sense of bliss, really. And so the contemplative meditation can give you that direction. It may not answer the nitty-gritties, but then again, it's not about the nitty-gritties. It's about to be able to adapt to the currents of the flow of life as well. If you are elderly, have less energy, so what could you do with the energy you have left? And that's, to make it worthwhile. And that's important for you to realize that too.
Thank you, Dr. Mao. I don't know if any of you are theater goers, but what Dr. Mao was speaking about reminds me of and this practice, and also Rick's comment and question reminds me of intermission, that we're engaged in this kind of intense, ongoing life drama, and a lot of problems and problem solving. And in the theater, the intermission is a wonderful time to process, take a break from the drama, take a break from the life situation, to breathe and to consider what you've just experienced or felt or witnessed, and perhaps gain a deeper perspective of the characters. Like Rick mentioned, he gained a deeper knowledge or intimacy of his father through taking this break from stepping out of the ongoing flow of life to have a deeper, higher perspective. Suze, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. I've been going through a really difficult drama. It doesn't look like it was my making, but it's in my life. And if I just don't deal with it, then I feel worse. So I just kind of have had to deal with this. But I've had like an HOA and a president situation, and they did some stuff that wasn't right, and it doesn't matter. But I must say that if I was not participating in this meditation thing, I probably would be locked up for murder. So, I mean, that's not really my nature, but anyway, I'm so appreciative of the fact that, and I'm some days I'm not even that good at meditating, but it doesn't matter because I have a commitment and I'm doing it. And some days I spend more time on it than others, and other times I'm just kind of just doing it because I said I would. And I said I would for me, and I really like the group dynamic. So it's really helped me a lot. But a couple of things that I've been thinking about is, like, first of all, how if you're watching a movie and you can get the overall view of what's happening to a character, because you get the overview of what this other character is going to do and that they're going to run into each other. I shouldn't have been where I was. Even when I got there, I was hungry, so I got an ice cream. Then I went and sat on a bench. And then because of all that timing, this person came up that really had great insight and could really help me. And that wouldn't have happened had it not been totally a random thing that happened. So I really kind of put a lot of faith and I really think that because of the way that we can think and let go when we're meditating, that I think that we kind of like almost give ourselves little intermissions to where I can quit trying to do things and just be. And sometimes when I be, some really nice things happen that I couldn't have planned. I couldn't have planned that meeting with that person. It happened. But I think because I think doing meditation and just being willing to practice, I think I'm just, it's almost like the world slows down and I can, it's like that. I think that's where the magic can come in. And another thing that's been happening too is like, I've written these people like 13 months worth of emails and they either deflect or stall or stonewall or whatever. So I am just that kind of person where I'm like a dog on a bone. So one thing that's been kind of interesting is what I'm doing to them, I'm now asking in this meditation of me. I'm asking the same thing in several different ways, looking for a break, another way in to get to the essence. And another thing that's been kind of interesting was they've now hired an attorney, and it's just, the whole thing's just stupid. But anyway, they've hired an attorney. So I was on the phone with the attorney the other day, and I was doing almost like the same meditation type practice with him, where I was asking him the same question in different ways. So it's almost like, I think this practice is almost like doing like a cross-examination. It's the same questions, but you try sometimes just like, I try changing my timing or changing the inflection or just changing the question. And I just think it's kind of interesting that this situation that I find very uncomfortable in bullying, what's happening with that is kind of like an overlay of what's happening with the meditation. So I don't know if there's a question in there or I don't know, but I'm just so happy to have this group, and I'm so happy to have this meditation because I'm not perfect at it, but I'm doing it, and I'm so happy to have this container. So thank you.
Thank you, Suze. Okay. To add to what you've said, it sounds like what you're describing is so this type of meditation, contemplative meditation, is the origin for Zen meditation, and it shares a lot of similarities with Zen. And high performance athletes use Zen meditation or often spontaneously go into Zen meditative states, and they can only realize that after they've begun studying meditation. They realize, oh, when I'm in the middle of a marathon, I have spontaneously gone into Zen states or the zone, hyper states of awareness. So the zone for high performance athletes is something that happens spontaneously, sometimes also for artists, but then they can't always hold on to it because it's so spontaneous, and so they seek meditation. So for example, I worked with a race car driver who found that when he was going 300 miles per hour, suddenly he had a lot of clarity, and he was so focused that on one task and on one purpose, and so clear that his suffering and his neurosis disappeared. And it was incredible for him, although it was very dangerous. And his wife was begging him, please find another way to feel peaceful, because It's a little risky. So what you're describing sounds to me like you're learning to cultivate and to be in charge of the zone. So becoming fully present in the moment, more aware, more in the flow. And also that moment you described with the ice cream cone, it's not just that you are happening to have this great coincidence, but you're also aware enough to recognize, oh, this is an opportunity. This is a surprising opportunity that I did not manipulate, that is there for me. So if you were still trapped in neurosis or trapped in kind of overthinking, you might not have recognized that opportunity. So it sounds like what I'm taking from what you've said is that you're having a deeper experience of the zone, of this meditation in life. And it sounds like even though you're heavily challenged, you're navigating and you're not allowing this challenge to possess you with anxiety or fear, but you're navigating peacefully with clarity, and you'll likely have a much more beneficial outcome. Dr. Mao, does that sound correct to you?
Well said, Olivia. I might add though, because what Sue had said earlier, said earlier that it has nothing to do, this particular incident with the HOA, nothing to do with her own making. And that may be true on the superficial level, but the fact of the matter is that you live in the same compound. And so that is what connects you to this matter, right? And so there is a relationship that you have. You could always in life and say, well, I don't think this relationship is serving me, and that there's a community of people who live around me are hostile, and they are, and so do I want to spend my energy battling day in, day out, or do I want to change my living situation? And again, this is where the ego comes in and says, but that's my right, and it's my home, and they can't do this to me. And so the struggle begins, and the constant irritation, which stress is not to be underestimated. Is not to say we should shy away from the what's not right in our lives. It's not to say that we would never engage in self-defense, or if our lives are threatened. But it has to do with context. How important it is to you, and how much energy you're willing to devote to fighting. And at the end of it, these people are all still going to be surrounding you, and they may continue to be hostile, even if you quote unquote win. That it may create ill will, and it may not serve you over time. And so the contemplative meditation then cause you to ask the question of, why? Why are they, why is this happening? Why is my action, with this interaction continue to go on? And so this is actually a good question to contemplate on, for you. And again, not in any judgment whatsoever of whether you should or should not, but rather you need to decide, and only you can decide the right course of action based on the context, as I mentioned. Like how much energy do you want to put into this, and what is the end result that may occur? You could win, like I said, but at what price? And the perpetual animosity and all of that, right? There's a lot of quote unquote unfair things in the world, but when our ego starts to assert a certain sense of righteousness that sometimes it may not serve our best interests in the long run, right? We talk about a continuum of life. Changes happen all the time. And you have mentioned that there are times in which what appears to be negative may over time turn out to be a positive, and vice versa. And so, should we allow our emotions to get the best of us and get all huffy and puffy and raise our blood pressure and suffer the risk of a heart attack or a stroke because of our reactions, really? Because again, it's the vantage point you stand on. Or do we find another way? And, I'll remind everybody that sort of parable, the Taoist parable about the farmer who goes to the country fair and buys a mare and brings the mare home. And that mare is stunningly beautiful. The neighbors came over to congratulate the farmer and say, "Wow, amazing! You're so lucky." Well, the farmer just needed a horse to work, and a week later, someone left the gate open, and the mare ran away. And so now the neighbors come over and say, "Wow, what a misfortune! This is so bad. I mean, this mare caused you to lose money." And a week later, the mare came back with a stallion. And now the neighbors came over and said, "Wow, this mare it brings you such great luck." Well, a week prior, they were just saying the mare brought you bad luck. But now the mare brought you good luck because look, you not only have one horse, we have two now, right? Two for the price of one. And then shortly thereafter, the farmer's only son was riding the stallion and got bucked and fell and broke his leg, and now he became a cripple. And now everybody's saying, "Oh, this is bad omen. You have really this. It all started with this mare, and it's just bad luck all the way around, right?" And a year later, the country went to war, and every young man got drafted, and none returned from war. But the farmer's son was spared because he was crippled. So, hey, listen, it's a long road here. And it's hard to predict the outcome, but what may appear to be negative at the moment may turn out to be all right, and vice versa. So perhaps, Suze, you might be open to inviting those neighbors who are creating some difficulty for you, and open your doors to them and just kind of, find out what they're maybe why they are doing what they're doing. And first and foremost, accept that, most people don't have bad intentions. They have insecurity. And that insecurity may cause actions for them to take actions that create problems with other people. And so, and change is always difficult. And, but, just to see, hey, what's the issue here? Maybe we can come to some kind of understanding, even if I don't get my issues resolved. At least we can be cordial and not have this negative energy that goes back and forth. Not good for anybody. Anyway, just wanted to.
Yeah. Well, change is on the way, and it's one person that just kind of got drunk with power. And I've emailed, and she's just dug her heels in. I mean, anyway, it's just a mess, but it's going to be good because she's going to be on the way out. And I know that's a thankless job. I've done it before. But you just can't do things like selective enforcement. You just can't do that. So, and like my background, a lot of times I don't want to deal with things, but when I was a kid, I was bullied and I wasn't really aware of it until it kind of hit in my life in my 40s. And I kind of owned that. And so now when something like this happens and it feels like that energy, it's like, it's really hard for me to not stand up for myself, even though I don't want to do it. It's hard for me to not do that because then I feel like I'm doing it to myself. So anyway, so I see the resolution. Now there's some other neighbors that are helping me that are very involved, and they weren't even aware how bad it was. So I hate that I was like the backboard, for the basketball. But, now people can see what's going on. I wish her no ill will. This just needs to be the community that I know that it is, and not spoiled by one person. And she doesn't live here anymore. She's still here and she rents her place, but it's all good. It's going to be there, but I will tell you, it's been very aggravating, but I'm just so appreciative of meditating because it's really helped me. It really has. So thank you.
Thank you, Suze. Thank you so much, Dr. Mao. I love that story about the farmer's son.
Yeah.
And the mayor. And there are actually quite a few. There are other beautiful stories in that same vein. So thank you. And we're coming up now on 11 o'clock. So are there any closing questions before we wrap up this Q&A? Or Dr. Mao, do you have some further illumination before we dive back into the waters of contemplation for 2 more weeks? I hear beautiful silence. So it's almost as though this is another form of Udao. So continue practicing. Thank you everyone so much for being here, for gathering today. And remember to give attention not only to the loud, to the yang, but to the yin, so to the quiet, to the subtle. And as you continue practicing Wu Dao, allow your life, your entire life, to come into consideration. Your reactions, your experiences, the surprises that may arise, and listen to life as life communicates with you through your perception. So keep your eyes open, stay alert, and keep meditating. We'll meet again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Dr. Mao.
Dan.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Mao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mao. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful talk.
Thank you.